Hi everyone, we're just waiting for everyone to join the room before we get started. I just wanted to let you know that I am super excited to introduce our next presenter. Hello and welcome. I'm Brittany Morrow. I am going to introduce you to one of my super wonderful, beautiful, close friends who I've been working with for the last 10 years. Her name is Sarah Merrell. She is currently a blogger and a vlogger, and she'll tell you a little bit more about that later. She's also the editor-at-large at Blue Ridge Motorcycling Magazine, and she is the national marketing manager for Women's Sportbike Rally. We've been working together on that project for a really long time now. She also does all of the safety briefings. She's from the Deals Gap area, so you guys probably already know that about her. I am super thrilled to have her talking about education and training in motorcycling and how it can completely reinvent your riding. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Sarah. Sarah, thank you so much for being here and for giving us your time and all of your love and yourself.
Thank you, Brittany. I appreciate the awesome introduction, and it's great to virtually see everybody and do this conference today. I'm really honored to be part of it. And this is a topic that's really near and dear to my heart because the truth is I almost didn't become a motorcyclist, and it was because I was scared and I was fearful, and every time I got on my motorcycle, my heart would just start pounding, and that fear really kept me from having fun on my bike. It kept me from being passionate about it. And once I started pursuing education as a way to get over those fears and lack of confidence, it was a complete and utter transformation. I went from not having fun on my motorcycle and at times just being frustrated and wanting to give up, and went from that to feeling very confident and comfortable on my bike. And it's become a lifestyle for me. My whole life revolves around motorcycling, and I love it. It's something that's just very, very near and dear to my heart. And it's kind of sad to think that I came so close to not pursuing motorcycling. And I talked to women, and not just women, but men too, who are new to motorcycling and they're going through that phase that I went through, or perhaps they're a veteran motorcyclist, but are still having some confidence issues. Maybe they had an accident or a crash that has kept them from feeling confident on their bike. It could be any myriad of reasons you might not feel confident. But the good news is there are some great resources out there that can take you from being a rider who lacks confidence, who might lack skill, to being a rider who is safer, faster, and having more fun on their motorcycle. So I thought I would start by sharing with you all a picture of exactly where I started from, so you can see what this transformation can potentially look like. So I'll share my screen here. Let's see. Let's see. So if you go back here. So if you can see this picture, this is actually the first time that I ever was about to ride on the back of a motorcycle. This picture is my very first introduction to motorcycling, when my husband asked me to ride on the back of his bike with him. And it's hard to see in the picture, but I was really scared. Even the thought of riding on the back of the bike was extremely scary to me. And so that really changed for me over time. And so one of the things—
Sarah, sorry,
yeah.
I'm going to interrupt you. Can you share full screen so we can see your picture and not all the hoo-ha around it?
Oh, let me see if this will work.
Sorry to interrupt.
Oh, here we go. Here's
Lovely, thank you.
yeah, this is a little bit bigger, so I think you can see it. But I basically went from being scared even to ride on the back of a motorcycle. And I mean, and when I say scared, I was like shaking. I was so scared to ride on the back. So then I started, once I started motorcycling and I started doing track days and getting coaching and instruction, you can see a difference between one of my first picks at, that was my second track day, where I'm basically not leaning off the bike at all. And mostly that was because I was going so slow, to really working with a lot of coaches. At this time, I had already had a lot of education under my belt and training when this picture on the right was taken. And so it just shows the difference of going from a before to an after. And the difference is confidence, of course, but that confidence really came from working really hard with coaches. But I didn't start with track days at first. So what I really started with motorcycling, number one, is setting goals. So one of the things that I set out to do when I realized that I wanted to overcome my fears and overcome some of the things that were holding me back as a motorcyclist was setting goals. And a way to set goals that has been very, very effective for me, both in business and in my personal life, is setting SMART goals. And so that stands for specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. And when you set goals using this framework, it makes it much more likely for these goals to actually come to fruition and for you to actually achieve the goals. And so early on in my riding, I started setting goals for myself. And so it could be something like I wanted to gain enough confidence on my bike to move from, novice class at track days to intermediate. And I would give a specific period of time. I would make sure it was a goal that could actually be achievable. I try to make it as specific as possible. Or it could be something like setting some objectives for myself. Like I'm going to read these books, go to these track days, and I'm going to go to this riding school in order to achieve the overall goal of decreasing my lap times. And I've had a lot of different goals over the years. A recent one that I had was to gain confidence. I had a hard time braking off of long, high-speed straights into tight turns on the track, and it was really holding me back. And so I said overcoming that fear and that obstacle was also a goal, a more recent one that I set. But when I first started in my riding, the goals were a lot more simple. For example, I had a goal of just trying to get comfortable in corners and not freaking out and braking so much and staying up and down. And so that was one early on. So starting out in riding, one of the first classes that I did is the Motorcycle Safety Foundation course. And for new riders, this course is amazing. This course helped me understand the very, very basics of motorcycle riding. And before I ever started riding my bike, I did the MSF course. And I did a very basic rider course, but they also have intermediate and advanced rider courses. And I highly recommend it. It's definitely worth looking into. I put the website link on here. So they really do have classes that can benefit almost any kind of rider. But right off the bat, this course gave me some of the very, very fundamental skills of learning to ride in a safe environment like a parking lot. And the instructors were really awesome. So I highly recommend those classes. So one of the other things that has been extremely helpful along the way is reading, just to use books. And so early on, one of the things that I did after finishing the MSF course was I read this book called Twist of the Wrist, which my husband had actually recommended to me. And this book was a total game changer. So just to give you an example, the first women's sport bike rally that I ever went to at Deals Gap along the Dragon, which is 318 curves and 11 miles, very, very curvy technical road. The first women's sport bike rally was my first time riding the Dragon. And I just like teeter-tottered through the corners. I was scared. I was definitely the slowest person there. And just like prayed I could like make it through the Dragon without falling down. And one of the things that I did was after that experience on the Dragon, I read this book. And one of the great things about it is they really break down how the mechanics of the motorcycle play into riding and how the mechanics of the bike translate into inputs like braking and cornering and how that plays into the suspension of the bike. And it really helped me understand the why behind certain motorcycle skills and techniques and to put that all together. And every chapter of the book that I read, I would go out and I would practice that skill. And one of the skills in this book that really, really helped me was throttle control and being very smooth on that input, very smooth on the braking. That was a really big one. Focus was big. Practicing looking ahead. This book talks about that a lot. And this book, I think, is what really helped me become a smooth rider. And I'm not a perfect rider. There's a lot of skills that I still need to work on, but the one compliment that I get on my riding a lot is that I'm very smooth. And it's this book and the skills in this book that helped me get there. And you've probably heard people say before, smooth equals fast. So the more smooth you can be on your bike, a lot of times that will translate into being a faster, better rider. So I got a lot out of this book, and I hope that that you all get a lot out of this book too. So another resource. Let's see if I can advance this. Here we go. Okay, so this is another one that was positively transformational. So after I read The Twist of the Wrist and started practicing all the skills from the book, the next women's sport bike rally I went to, I was a completely different rider. And for the first time, I was riding through a technical road like the Dragon and some of those other just very technical mountain roads with a lot of elevation, a lot of tight corners, and gained a lot of confidence. And I still, was not a great rider, still had a lot of work to do, but it was a night and day difference. And a lot of the women at the rally mentioned how much that had helped. So after that, I switched and I went from reading a book and felt like I actually needed to receive some in-person instruction. And so I did a course called Total Rider Tech, which is pretty similar to Total Control. And I highly recommend both of these classes. Total Control offers a variety of different courses that you can take. There's a wonderful book, Total Control, that you can read as well. The book is great, but I also recommend doing the actual course. It's Lee Parks is the person who came up with it. There's a link here. Of course, I'm going to make sure everyone gets the links to all of these resources. And as you can see in the picture that I have on here, one of the skills that they had us work on in the course, as you can see, it's in a parking lot, so it was pretty safe, is they had us get on a circle and work on throttle control, work on body positioning, work on looking where you're going on that circle. And we just kept going and going around that circle, making it tighter and tighter, working on body position more. And actually the first time I dragged my knee on the ground was in that class. And what it taught me was how far I can lean my bike and how much control I can have while cornering on my motorcycle. And the instructor was there the whole time, telling me to make tweaks to my body position, telling me to just giving me feedback along the way. We did a lot of different drills in the class. There was a drill on focus that we did that was actually off the bike, where they had us basically practiced, going from kind of looking down to looking ahead, and how much that can change your riding just by bringing your eyes up and looking ahead at where you're going. And they had us work on body position, without the bike moving as well, just stationary. And it was, my husband took the class with me, and both of us say that hands down, this kind of instruction is just a total game changer. After this, I mean, it was another huge step in my riding. Just the skills that I learned from this, and being able to go into corners confidently, I owe to this course. Okay, so track days. So track days are one of my favorite subjects. And so I'll tell you all a bit more about track days before I go into the pictures. But my first track day, I did novice, and the instructors at the track day were just absolutely phenomenal. And I've done PRE track days and Sportbike track time. There's a lot of different track day companies out there that you can do. You don't have to be a hardcore, sport bike rider to do track days. Really, anyone can do them. You just have to have a leather suit, basically, is what they require. But the nice thing is it's coaching, and it's not one-on-one coaching, but they do have a lot of coaches there. And so you can get a lot of help. And when I started doing the novice at track days, they will do 20-minute sessions. So you're in the classroom for 20 minutes learning, and then you're on the track for 20 minutes, and then you're off for 20 minutes. And that instruction at track days was so helpful, because they will go out there with you on the track. They'll watch your riding. They'll tell you what you're doing wrong. They'll tell you what to work on. And then you can follow them, and you can work on your lines. They'll help you work on your braking, getting on the throttle. And I've found that a lot of the riders that I know who do track days tend to progress faster with their riding, just because there is that great instruction. And it's not just novice either. I ride in the intermediate group, and there's instructors. The only difference is that as you start to progress into intermediate and advanced, the coaches, you don't have the classroom sessions, but the coaches are still out there, and they're always willing to work with you. But you have to ask them. Like, you have to sometimes go to one of the coaches and say, hey, will you follow me around the track, or will you let me follow you, and be proactive about it. But it's been just so great. So I'll share my screen again here. So I included some pictures from track days just to show how much fun it is. And the cool thing about track days is that, so you can see in here the middle picture, that's actually one of the coaches behind me in the orange. And so he's watching me ride and giving me some help. And as you can see, I'm having a blast out there. So there's ladies track days too. So sometimes, and I've met some people who are a little intimidated about doing their first track day. And yeah, sometimes the guys on the track can be a little adrenaline fueled, and it can be intimidating when they're passing you right and left. I've been there for sure. But there's ladies track days, and these are really nice because the ladies are a bit less aggressive. And don't get me wrong, some of these ladies are crazy fast and are passing the guys. But I found that the women's track days, it's a great networking experience. You can learn a lot from the other women. Everyone's super nice, super supportive. It's a great first track day for women because all the coaches are just extra helpful. They'll even help you unload your bike, load your bike. They'll help you change, your tires if you need to flip your tires, whatever you need. The staff at the ladies' days is just amazing. And so actually that picture on the right, they do at the Little Tally Ladies' Day in Talladega, Alabama, they do a mock race, and all the men are the umbrella boys. And so that's just a really fun thing for people to do. and this is a picture of all the women at the last Ladies' Day. And this is in May with Sportbike track time. Hopefully with coronavirus, it won't get canceled, but hopefully they'll reschedule it. There's also Femwalla in California at Chuckwalla, and it's my goal to do their Femwalla track day there. Okay, so next is Yamaha Champions Riding School. And so actually I'll give you just a little kind of behind the scenes info about why I did Champ School. So I talked earlier about how I found myself really kind of struggling at track days. I had hit this plateau, so to speak. My lap times were just stagnant. And I had some fears. The coaches kept telling me, they're like, you know, you've got the basic skills, you've just got to go faster. But that's easier said than done. It's scary to be going a $150 down a straight, going into a corner that's blind and up over a hill. I was just having a really hard time. And so I wanted to gain more confidence on the track. I wanted to have the confidence that I have on the road and apply that to my track riding. And so that's why I decided to do Yamaha Champions Riding School, because I had heard from people that if you need to fix something in your riding, do Champ School. And so I looked it up and learned more about it. And I had heard from people that it's positively transformational. I've never heard anything bad about the school. It is a little bit pricey. It's $2,200 for 2 days, but I will tell you, it is so worth it. My only regret is not doing it sooner. And so in these pictures that I'm showing here, these are some of the different drills that they have you do. And it's kind of like total control on steroids, and it's on the track, which is different. And they work on so many different skills. And before Champ School, I didn't realize how much I was doing wrong in my riding. It really opened my eyes, and it's some of the best instructors in the country. Nick Ianoch, he's amazing. Kyle Wyman, who rides in Moto America Racer, he was one of the instructors. Chris Paris, just amazing people. And so they work with you on track, doing a variety of different drills. One of my favorite drills is called the pointy end of the cone drill, where you're going around the track full speed. They throw all these cones out there on the track, and you have to go around them. But then they change them every lap, so you don't know where they're going to be. And it really showed me that that if I'm looking ahead and I'm focused on what I'm doing, and have the right skills in place, the right technique, that you can actually go around almost any obstacle at full speed easily. And that skill boosted my confidence so much. They also had us do drills like riding a lap only using our rear brake, or riding a lap and purposely being 10 feet off our apexes, so we knew what that would feel like. Or doing a full lap, as you can see in one of these photos here, without using your your left hand. And so it's but all these skills really, all the drills were so helpful. I even did a 2-up ride with Chris Paris, and that was completely eye-opening to me. And so I left Champ School just completely blown away with what I could do. And this picture on the left is one of the shots from Champ School, where I was hitting my apex, which was exciting. And then on the right, they have like a little kind of graduation that they do. And but it was amazing to learn from some of the best instructors. And they have awesome videos. And so even if you can't do Champ School, check them out online. Nick has all these awesome videos. So one of the real game-changing videos for me, and one thing they talked about at Champ School, was 100 points of grip, and how lean angle plays into grip. And I probably don't have time to explain the whole concept from the video, but if you're going to watch a video, watch this one, and how Nick explains grip. And this concept really helped give me confidence too, because it taught me that just that importance of being smooth on the inputs, not being abrupt, and what can happen, you know, how braking and lean angle and grip all work together. And Champ School has lots of great videos they put out, so you know, follow them on social media, and it's some great instruction. Okay, so I have to talk about Women's Sport Bike Rally, of course. So Women's Sport Bike Rally, and I'm sure a lot of you ladies have participated. Women's Sport Bike Rally really changed my life, and I'm just completely honored to now be working on marketing for Women's Sport Bike Rally. So so the rally, these women at the rally, they provided so much encouragement and motivation to me. And so that first rally that I mentioned, where I was just kind of teeter-tottering through the corners and hoping I wouldn't die, the women at the rally, they never judged me. They never looked down on me. They never saw me as less of a motorcyclist. And that lack of judgment was so key in helping me not give up. And I learned so much from following some of these ladies around who were good riders. In fact, at one Women's Sport Bike Rally, I was on a group ride, and you know, Brittany actually noticed something that I was kind of doing wrong with when I was turning around, and so she got me into a parking lot and on a circle, and we started working on some skills that really helped me. And so I actually got some instruction out of the rally, and there's awesome workshops that they do, but most importantly, I just met other women motorcyclists that I could learn from, and who were better riders than me. And this is just a couple pictures from the rally, and it just shows the women smiling and supportive. So the other item that I've found to be helpful too is cross training, and by that I mean, instead of just you know, taking the normal motorcycle that you ride, to actually try some other forms of riding, like riding a dirt bike, for example, or I like to race pit bikes. And so I found that I can take those other forms of motorcycling and apply it to riding my sport bike, and a lot of it transfers. So I found a lot of people like to practice and play around with traction on a dirt bike, and then transfer that to their riding. And I'll share the screen again. And like I mentioned, you know, learning from other riders is key. The important thing though is that when you're learning from other people, is that you just be careful who you accept guidance and instruction from. You know, make sure they're a good rider. So Anna Rigby is one of my good friends, and she's more experienced than me on the track. And so that she and I had a track day, and in the picture on the right, she dropped down and rode an intermediate just to help me out. So in this picture, she's kind of taken a look at what I'm doing on the bike. And then once I got off the bike, she gave me some great pointers. So, you know, if there's other women out there who are good riders, you know, don't hesitate to ask them, you know, for help, ask them for advice. And I know I'm always willing to do that for other riders. And we're lucky to have such a wonderful community of women who are so willing to help each other. So I also wanted to include some online resources out there. And so, you know, with the coronavirus happening right now and all these restrictions, it's not possible to do track days and a lot of the different events and group rides, all of that. So in the meantime, it's great to utilize what we have available online. Nick from Champ School, he has a blog through Cycle World. It's an awesome blog with great instruction and tips. So Joanne, Gear Chick, her blog's more about gear, but it's still an awesome blog and website that she has. Women Riders Now, love that site. I included a screen grab from there. And Ride Apart actually has a women's category if you all want to check some of those out. And of course, I have a blog too. I had to plug it, sportbikesweetheart.net. And I post on a variety of topics, but if there's something that I'm working on or a topic related to riding, oftentimes I'll talk about it in my blog. And also, just wanted to leave you all with some tips as you seek instruction and education and training with riding. There's times when you might feel like you're not making progress, but don't give up. Even slow progress and small progress is still progress. Remember when setting goals about SMART goals. I already kind of touched on being careful who you accept advice from. In the past, I've accepted advice from riders whose skill level I didn't really know that well, and some of it was bad advice, and you don't want to have bad advice incorporated into your riding. And then also that learning is constant and lifelong, and there's a lot of riders out there and women riders who are total goals for me, and I still continue to set goals and still continue to strive to be better. And I don't think the learning ever truly stops. And lastly, just don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to ask for help if you need it. There's always going to be someone out there who's struggled with what you're struggling with, who can relate, and who might be able to give you that bit of encouragement you need and motivation that you need. And so I hope if you all get anything from this presentation, I hope that it'll help you all to set goals and to, come out of this presentation and maybe be ready to take your riding in another direction, and maybe be willing to pursue some of these different avenues, and to think about, what do you want out of your riding? What do you want to achieve? Even if it's something as simple as just having more fun, sometimes these things will help. So I wanted to go ahead and open it up to questions. And I did see that some of you all have been asking questions here. And so so first, I just wanted to say, I know some of the pictures of the track may be a little intimidating looking, but don't worry. It's they have a novice group at track days. The women's day is great, so don't worry about it. And I see a question asking about other opportunities to connect with women outside of outside of Women's Sport Bike Rally. Women's Sport Bike Rally is great. There's also ruts, I believe it's Ruts to Race Lines is something that I'd like to participate in that I haven't done yet. That's a great women's event. Track days, ladies' days at track days, definitely. Those are awesome. Femwalla on the West Coast. Women's Sport Bike Rally now has 4 events in different places across the country. So there's more opportunities for that.
Sarah?
Yes.
Hey, will you unshare your screen so that we can focus on your beautiful face?
Yes. Brittany, what would I do without you?
If you don't mind, I can go ahead and lead you through the questions so that you don't have to click through your screen as much.
Okay.
And that way you can focus on your answers more so than trying to be techie. Does that sound okay?
Oh, that's perfect. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so I have a couple of questions from Jen SQ. She wants to know, was Judd your husband already when he asked you to ride with him, or was this something you guys did while you were dating?
It was actually while we were dating, and we had only been dating for a couple weeks at that point. And so I was basically hopping on a motorcycle with someone I barely knew.
So to follow up on that, can you speak about how important it is to have a supportive partner?
Oh, it's extremely important. And I'm very lucky that my husband values motorcycle education and training as much as I do. And really that's where my passion for it came from, because he was the one who said, okay, you bought a motorcycle, but I don't recommend riding it until you do the MSF course. And then he said, you know, before you ride the Dragon, you know, I think that you should get your confidence up on these easier road spurs. And I think you should read the book, Twist of the Wrist, before you get on any kind of technical road. And so he really helped me with some of these different educational opportunities. And then when I found that it worked, that progressing in your education and skills makes such a huge difference, I then kind of started looking for opportunities on my own. And he's very lucky that he was always kind of naturally just a good rider. But for me, I'm the kind of person where I have to work hard at a skill to be good at it. And so education was so important.
Awesome. A question from Kathy. Do you equally suggest Twist of the Wrist 2 as a worthwhile read along with the first book?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. And I should have included that one too. So I'm really glad that you brought it up, because there is a second Twist of the Wrist book. And in both books, you know, I really recommend just taking a chapter at a time and working on the skill in that chapter until you have it down really well. And that's something that's been helpful too, because if someone throws like 10 different skills at you to work on, it can be extremely overwhelming. And so working on one thing at a time has been extremely helpful.
Sarah, that's fantastic advice. Tiffany wants to know, which level courses did you take in the total control training where you were showing the photos? What level was that? Beginner, intermediate, advanced 2, or the track course?
Okay, yeah, so actually the photo I showed wasn't me. It was a photo I pulled from online, since unfortunately I didn't take any photos during the class. But I did the advanced one, and although it's advanced, like I didn't feel like it was. I did the Total Rider Tech Advanced, and although it has advanced on the name, I didn't feel like, I feel like anyone who's been riding for a while could benefit from it.
Okay, so that kind of leads me into a question from, let me see here. There's actually a couple of women who asked questions about these types of courses that you were suggesting. Are they open to all types of riders, and not just sport bikes, but cruisers, adventure bikes, etc.?
Yes, definitely. And I'm really glad that that someone asked that question, because even Champ School, it's on a racetrack, but there were people on cruiser style bikes at Champ School. There were people on sport touring bikes. And in Champ School, they have it in different areas of the country. And if you, don't want to take your own bike, they have bikes available. They're all Yamahas, of course, like R6, R3, the MT series. But yeah, you can do, Champ School is for any type of rider can benefit from it. And it was really kind of interesting to see that wide variety. To have, like, there's people who are brand new riders at Champ School. There's people who are racers, but they have enough instructors and they put everyone in groups. Track days, I've seen people on a variety. Granted, sport bikes are more prevalent for track days, but I have seen people on other types of bikes. I've taken my Supermoto to the track before. I've seen sport touring bikes on the track. Definitely for total control, Total Rider Tech, MSF, any type of bike. So, if you're on a cruiser style bike, all of these resources can be helpful. And I found that all the skills in Twist of the Wrist, all the skills in Total Control, Champ School, Track Days, all of those, they all teach the same skills, the same technique. And so you can take that and you can apply it to a cruiser style bike, you can apply it to a sport bike. it doesn't change. And so that's really helpful to me when I hop on different types of motorcycles.
Great, Sarah. Thank you. Carrie wants to know, for those of you, for those of the audience who don't have any track experience, can you define what an apex is?
Sure. So that was a really big deal at champ school. And, defining where the apex is in a corner can sometimes be difficult. And so it's basically that, and I hope I'm going to explain this well. It's like,
I got your back. Don't worry.
I know the concept in my head, but basically it's that area where you're going to hit your full lean angle in that corner, and it's where you're going to start to basically plan your line out of the corner. And so it's that place where you're going to be fully leaned. And so on the track, it's really important to it's also that area of the corner where you're hitting it's not always right smack in the middle, but you want to have your bike as close to that point as possible. And so and in tracks, it's oftentimes easy to define because it's where they have the rumble strips. But sometimes tracks will set up a cone to define the apex. At champ school, it was nice. They actually did 2 cones, and you want to have your bike parallel to those cones in the corner. And when you do that, all of a sudden, cornering just really comes together. And so then when we did the drill at champ school where we were 10 feet off that apex, you really feel it, and you realize how much better it feels when you're hitting it correctly. So Brittany, hopefully that was...
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, it's planning the line through the corner. And obviously taking these classes, they will help you define an apex both on the track, but also will they teach you how to figure out where the apex is on the corner of a street?
Yes, and actually that's something after champ school, after I worked on that in champ school, that's actually one of the things that I work on a lot on the road is the lines that I take on the road and finding the best line through corners and hitting my apexes in the corners. And so it's, I always enjoy riding behind someone who is a very skilled track day rider or racer, because they tend to have very good lines on the road that are fun to follow. And that's part of how I learned on a road like the Dragon. That's how I learned the lines, was following other people.
Great. So it's kind of staying on that same track, taking these skills that you've learned in these courses, how have you overcome the fear of transferring those skills to a real road that has a lot more risk involved?
Yeah, well, I think the great thing about building your skills is that it makes you a safer rider. And there's, not to scare people, but there's some things that riders do, like poor body positioning, being abrupt on the brakes, abrupt on the throttle, that if you keep doing it, you will crash. There's certain mistakes that people make in their riding that are a crash situation waiting to happen. And the great thing about working on skill and technique is that you don't have those dangerous variables anymore in your riding. And so you become a safer rider. And I did a blog post not too long ago after doing champ school about how to crash proof your riding. And technically your riding's never going to be 100% crash proof, but if you work on these certain skills, you'll be so much less likely to have a crash scenario happen. And so, this topic is important to me, not just from the standpoint of, empowerment and being a better rider, but being a safer rider.
Wonderful. Sue said, just looking at your pictures at the track made me a little anxious. What tools do you use mentally to help with anxiety or fear when it comes to your training? I have another question that's kind of the same idea. Are you afraid of dropping your bike during even parking lot training? And how do you address, those fears or anxiety that come up while you're training?
Sure. Yeah. And I won't lie, riding on the track can be a harrowing experience, especially a track like Road Atlanta that has a lot of blind corners, like you're coming up over the hill and you can't see the corner on the other side and you're going 150 miles an hour, and that's really scary. But for me, I progressed kind of slowly on the track, and when I first started out, I didn't go very fast, and I was probably one of the slowest people in the novice group. But you know, with Women's Sportbike Rally on the group rides, we talk a lot about ride your own ride, and it's the same thing on the track. You can go as fast as you want to, and people will go around you. You're not responsible for the other people on the track, just yourself. And so I recommend going at a pace that you feel comfortable with. And if you go into a corner and you feel like you're going too fast, you can use your brakes. As long as you apply your brakes very smoothly and you're not, you know, at full lean, you can apply brakes in the corner. And once you start to work on those skills and you realize that you can slow down if you want to, it becomes a lot less scary on the track. And the track's a lot less dangerous than the road too. And so although some of those pictures might seem a little intimidating, I didn't start out that way. Everyone has to start somewhere. So, and I'm sorry, what was the other question, Brittany?
No, it was kind of just a general question about addressing anxiety and fears, whether you're riding on the street or in those classes about crashing or dropping your bike.
Oh, yeah. And with dropping your bike or crashing, you know, being in the parking lot, you know, I had times when I was practicing in the parking lot where I would dump my bike, or I would, you know, mess up. And so my bike isn't 100% pristine. But the nice thing is when you have those mistakes in the parking lot, you don't have to worry about other riders or drivers on the road. It's a very safe place. And so if that does happen, I think the worst thing that I had happen was actually during the MSF course. We were doing a kind of squiggly line and I grabbed at the brake and the bike fell over and I twisted my ankle. But that's like the worst that happened. So you have to, you know, you can't, everyone's going to be afraid of dropping their bike. No one wants to, but if you can do it in a safe situation, that's best. And the track is a great place to push your comfort zone, push your skills, and what you are comfortable with, because at least on the track, everyone's going the same direction. You don't have to worry about some lady on her cell phone not paying attention. There's no trees to run into. There's ample runoff area. There's corner workers. So the track's a very safe place to test your skills.
Amen, sister. So we have reached the end of our allotted time. I want to thank you so much, Sarah, for being here and sharing your knowledge and your experience with us. We did not get to answer all of the questions, but for all of you watching, they are addressed in email afterwards, or we will have a handout, a follow-up email with a handout where you can connect with Sarah directly, including her links to her blog, where she has lots more advice for you to follow. Again, thank you so much, Sarah. And I wanted to invite all of you to enjoy a 10-minute break before we go into our next presentation, which is going to be with Laura Peters, and she will be talking about breaking boundaries. Enjoy your break. Thank you again, Sarah.
Thank you.